Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. The television news business is a very small place. Some might call it incestuous. Most of the people who do this weird job for a living know each other. Many have worked together over the years. There aren't that many employers. So it's not surprising that a number of people on this channel, including me, once worked across the dial at CNN. And as any of us can and will be happy to tell you, CNN has always been a liberal place. It was founded by Ted Turner, who's an aggressive left-winger. But CNN was not always nakedly partisan. It used to be a news network. It didn't always function as it does now as a political campaign. That's a new development. What changed? Well, the head of the company changed. The president of CNN now is Jeff Zucker. He's responsible for the change. Here's how I once described him on this program. From his shadowy lair hidden high above the newsroom, CNN's secretive dwarf king slithered to the intercom and summoned his minions. From across the cable empire, they gathered at his beckoning, each with talking points ready. So if it sounds like something out of Harry Potter, that's because in some ways it is. You won't see gargoyles at CNN headquarters, but you can feel the political ambitions of the man who runs every detail of that place. Since Zucker took over CNN almost 7 years ago, it often feels like every segment on that channel is choreographed for maximum political effect. If you've ever seen it, you know exactly what we're saying. And it turns out there's a reason it feels that way. Earlier today, the group Project Veritas released a series of audio and video recordings it says were made by someone within CNN. Now, as of tonight, we have not independently verified the tape we're about to show you. We did call over to CNN and ask them that they did not respond. But we have no reason to believe any of this is fake. The recordings we're about to show you indicate Zucker is dictating every detail of CNN's programming and doing so with clearly partisan objectives in mind. Here's one example. This is Zucker telling his minions how to shape the coverage of Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Watch.
So I just want to say on the Lindsey Graham front, I know that there's a lot of people at CNN that are friendly with Lindsey Graham. Time to knock that off, and it's time to call him out. And, you know, I think he's under full-time contract now at Fox News. He's done the last 26 interviews in cable news at Fox, okay? And so it's time to seriously call out what's going on here.
Oh, got that? That's the standard. That's the news standard at the news network, the cable news network. Lindsey Graham has appeared on Fox, so attack him! And so CNN did just that, all while pretending the coverage was legitimate. Here's Jeff Zucker telling his employees that no matter what else is going on in the world, the impeachment of Donald Trump, which in effect is a symbolic act since nobody believes he's going to be convicted, is nevertheless the only story that really matters. Listen.
We're moving towards impeachment. I mean, don't, we shouldn't pretend, this is going one way, and so all these moves are moves towards impeachment. So don't lose sight of what the big story is.
For a newsman, a distinct lack of clarity in those instructions, but the essence was clear enough. Don't lose sight of what the biggest story is, and that's an order. Well, the message apparently has been received by the people who work for Jeff Zucker. Listen as a CNN staffer explains that he and the rest of them know exactly what Jeff Zucker wants.
The impeachment stuff, there's new developments every day, more shoes drop, and it's like, there's just nothing we can do. If Zucker wants impeachment every single day to be the top story.
That's what he wants.
Yeah, he wants impeachment. So
above all else, I'm assuming.
Above all else.
There's nothing we can do if Jeff Zucker wants impeachment every single day. Impeachment above all. And so that's exactly what they delivered day after day, despite the fact that there's rarely anything new to report, not really. And yet, because projection is the signature hallmark of the left, Jeff Zucker accuses other people of trafficking in fake news. Hilarious. Listen to this.
I think what's going on in America now is really fundamentally the result of years of fake news, conspiracy, nonsense from Fox News that has taken root in this country. And I'm dead serious about this.
I'm dead serious about this, harumphs. One of the least serious people, least impressive people, least articulate people in public life. Ha! Even his own employees can't take that seriously. Listen to one of them.
There's a lot of people who are out here trying to, like, just do what they think is, like, the best of journalistic integrity. And then you get on the 9 a.m. call, and big boss Jeff Zucker tells you what to do. And it's like you have to, like, to a certain extent, you have to follow his verdict.
Oh, so we're laughing because how can you not laugh? It's just, it's out there. It's like there's nothing hidden at this point. But it's also poignant. Here you have a kid who works there who thinks it's journalism, and he looks around and he sees people, because there are good people at CNN. We know that. Anyone who's worked there knows the good people who work there, and there are a bunch of them, who are trying to commit journalism, but the big boss, Jeff Zucker, won't allow it. Integrity be damned. Just do what Jeff Zucker says, whether it's true or not. Well, it's not journalism, of course. It's the definition of state media. Relentless cheerleading. Relentless, never-ending shilling for the ruling class. America doesn't love it. They don't watch it. But everyone in Washington loves Jeff Zucker. Not surprising. Robbie Suave is an editor at Reason, author of Panic Attack, Young Radicals in the Age of Trump, and he joins us tonight. Robbie, great to see you tonight. So, look, I don't have any problem with opinion programming. This is an opinion show. We conduct a lot of opinion programming. As I often say, never attack Rachel Maddow, because she's not lying to me. She's just giving opinions I disagree with. If Jeff Zucker's out there claiming that he is running a news network and his employees are saying things like, there's nothing we can do. If Zucker wants impeachment, we have to do what he says. I mean, is that journalism?
I mean, that's the most interesting thing about this, right? That there can only be one story. Right. Every day, there is one story. There's nothing else happening in the world, nothing else worth covering. And if you're a journalist interested in exploring some other subject, please don't. Please stop. We don't do that here. Right? So that's frustrating, obviously, for the people who, as you said, are good journalists who work there and think maybe some days Trump is not the top story or the slightest minute new iota of news pertaining to Russia or Ukraine or whatever it is. Maybe there's something else that's more important to talk about. No, the orders are that can't be.
Well, that is such an excellent point. And whatever, you know, the faults that Fox News may have, I can say with total sincerity, we've never once in 3 years been told what to cover. We don't have some centralized morning call where the big boss gets on and says, this is the story, cover this. It's like whatever you think. That's where they hire you, is to make these calls. CNN, it's a command and control system. That just itself seems like a bad idea.
Well, and they act like they're these perfect purveyors of knowledge that can never err. I mean, I disagree with things people say on Fox because there's a range of people who say them on Fox. They disagree internally.
Yes,
but that's healthy.
True. I agree.
There's nothing wrong with that. But these other networks, some of them, these other mainstream news outlets, they act as if they represent some sensible center position that is sort of beyond reproach. It's different than what you're doing, right? What you're doing is weird or strained. What they're doing is just purveying objective information, and they're not on anyone's side. And I think the thing that's happened over the last couple of years, right, is people have realized that's not true. They've stopped believing that sort of lie, that narrative lie about what other journalists do.
So why wouldn't, if you were CNN, you just be honest and say, and maybe you have a couple of people who really are right down the middle, Wolf Blitzer, you know, pick one or whatever, but you say the rest of these guys, Don Lemon and the Cuomo kid, like, they're obviously partisans. There's nothing wrong with that. Why insult us? Continue to insult us by pretending otherwise.
Exactly, because you actually can do good journalist as someone with opinions. In fact,
I couldn't agree more.
Most people do have opinions, right? That's kind of the galling thing here, pretending that you're an objective purveyor of the truth when we know you have opinions.
Exactly.
And maybe that's the good thing about all of this. It's now more out in the open.
Yes.
I think more people realize that, no, there are opinions, and you should take that with a grain of salt when you're considering the information you're being given.
Exactly. Stop lying, and we can get along.
Yes.
Robbie, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure.
As Project Veritas's footage does make clear, Jeff Zucker's regime at CNN is only possible with the help of others at the network.
Don Lemon is, I mean, love him or hate him, he's blatantly, like, anti-Trump, he's blatantly left. So maybe Don Lemon could disclose that, but CNN makes it appear as though we have 24 hours of unbiased news. That's not true.
I have a sense that Nick Neville kid's in some trouble tonight, unfortunately. Author and columnist Mark Steyn joins us to assess all of this. What do you make of what we've learned tonight, Mark?
Well, it helps to confirm why CNN is in the state it's in. If you recall, I think this was the year before President Trump came down that escalator. CNN went nuts over the Malaysia Airlines jet,
right,
leading up to their fantastic theory that the jet had flown into a black hole, which you may recall their respected journalists were advancing at one point. And you can say what you like about that, but that has a kind of objective, surreal nuttiness all of its own. It's in the tradition of a lot of tabloid huckstering and other things, but it's not just putting yourself at the service of one political party and doing the bidding of that party. And I think that's been a disaster for CNN. You talk about Jeff Zucker. He has a network to run. And it seems to me a lot of the things that are terrible about CNN, before you get to the bias, its sets look dreary compared. I mean, I say this with whatever objectivity you take it with, but I think its sets look dreary compared to Fox. I think its anchors are not compelling. When it has big special events, such as its rather curious LGBT debate the other night when Joe Biden started riffing on gay bathhouses, in theory, that ought to be must-see TV, but it was a ratings bust because of the way CNN cover that. So there are actual things that, as a television executive, Jeff Zucker should be trying to correct. And once he's made it less bad in television terms, then if he wants to attend to his political biases, he would at least have accomplished his primary task, which is to be a functioning television executive.
Well, that's the interesting fact of all of this. I mean, CNN, for all of its effort to carry water for the Democratic Party, that's not actually working. So what is the point of this?
No, it isn't. And they're in this terrible trap because they started as the first cable news channel, and they had a kind of USA Today image. People just thought of it as something that's there. When you go to the airport, it's there. Like USA Today is outside your hotel room door when you're staying at a Marriott or whatever. When you go to a foreign hotel in Amman, in Jordan, or wherever, they've got CNN International playing over as you watch your breakfast in the restaurant. So they have this bland image. And yet, at the same time, they're hyper-partisans, and they can't make those two things align properly. I mean, CNN right now is the most irrelevant of the networks. If you want hardcore lefty propagandists, they do that. Say what you like about MSNBC,
totally true.
But they do that better than CNN.
I know. Much better. And it's actually interesting, I think. I mean, I watch in the gym every day. Mark Stein, great to see you. Thank you for that.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.